Greats.com and go with the home team, Mississippi Farm Bureau. There are lots of outlets that cover Texas A&M. None cover them quite like the crew at Texags and Texags.com. Olin Buchanan is part of that crew, and he joins us right now. Olin, it's been a while. Good to talk to you.
Well, thank you very much for having me on. I'm glad to be here.
So, Ole Miss at Texas A&M, originally scheduled for November 21st, unable to be played because of COVID issues within the A&M program, and almost worked out perfectly because this game was going to be played following Army-Navy on Saturday night at Kyle Field on CBS. Was going to be a massive audience. Disappointment abounds, I'm sure. What's the sentiment in and around Aggie land about this game being canceled?
Oh, yeah, just what you said. A lot of disappointment. Looking forward to it. Feel like A&M's playing really well. The feeling was that Ole Miss, despite the 4-4 record, still has gotten the nation's attention with Lane Kiffin's offense and Corral and Moore and all those guys. And everybody remembers the way they pushed Alabama. So if you could go in and get a win over Ole Miss, it would look good on your resume. For the playoffs, of course, and A&M has some faint hopes of backing into the playoffs. So that could only help you if you could have gotten a win over Ole Miss. So, and quite frankly, I'm sure it's the same way in Oxford and every other place. Just the fact that there was a football game that was canceled, that's disappointing in itself.
What was the situation at A&M for the game surrounding the 21st? I mean, I've heard rumor and innuendo and message board banter. How bad was the COVID situation? Was it actual positives? Was it contact tracing? Have you guys really been able to dig up a solid answer on that?
Yeah, it was contact tracing, which was another big part of the frustration. Because, the Aggies want to play, but they've got the SEC had that rule. It seemed like it's worse if you are in contact tracing than if you actually have guys that are positive. Because what was it, like 2 weeks, something like that, 10 days, 2 weeks, you can't be involved. I think it was 2 weeks.
It was 14 days. That's right.
Right, when you're involved in contact tracing. So they had like 16 players that were in contact tracing. I think 3 were positive. And when you add in the guys that had opted out and, some guys that were already injured, A&M just fell their scholarship guys fell into the 40s. What's the below the 53-man limit or 53 guideline or whatever it was. So, it was more about the contact tracing than actual positive tests.
Was there ever a definitive answer as to whether or not Kellen Mond was one of the players that was going to be out or would have been out?
Never a definitive answer, but if you listen to sources, and some of them were sources that have been right before, he was.
Yeah. You mentioned an outside chance for A&M still in the playoff hunt. What effect do you think Ohio State, Michigan being canceled and whatever decisions the Big Ten has to make, what effect does that have on Texas A&M?
I'd like to say, as someone who covers A&M, it's going to have a huge impact. Someone that's covered college football in various outlets for over 30 years now, I would say minimal, if any. I think that the Big Ten's going to do whatever it has to do to get Ohio State in the championship game, and I think Ohio State's one of those, and they'll win it. And I think Ohio State's one of those cachet programs that if they say, we won 6 games, and one of those is the conference championship, or maybe 7 games in a conference championship, I still think that Ohio State will be in the playoff, if that's the situation. And I absolutely expect that like I said, the Big Ten will do whatever's necessary to get Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game.
Olin Buchanan from Texags.com on your radio. We're talking about the cancellation of what was going to be Ole Miss and Texas A&M on Saturday night at Kyle Field. Bigger picture, Olin, there was beginning to be, at least outside looking in, some frustration that results were not coming quickly enough under Jimbo at Texas A&M. Have the results of this season quieted any of that rumbling?
It's funny. I don't know how many times I've been asked about in the last few weeks about, something similar. And here's the thing. All that rumbling was from outside of College Station. Inside here, look, we all know there's always for every program, there's a faction of fans that think you're supposed to win the national championship every year, even if you've never won one. But the vast majority understood the job that Jimbo Fisher, the rebuilding job that he faced, and there was no, there was no one upset here. The fact that they understood that A&M needed to, and Fisher needed to build a strong base of players, and they had been recruiting so well. They started at 6 true freshmen last year and played a whole bunch of them that didn't start. And you could, if you understood where the program was, there was no one calling for Jimbo Fisher's job, even though with a $75 million contract that's guaranteed, he's not going to lose it anyway. But there was no outspoken anger or anything like that. They understood the program or the situation. But outside, national media that seems to be been out of shape, that A&M, had the audacity to pursue a Florida State coach and then to pay him what they did. They seem to be pushing a narrative that just wasn't true.
Yeah. Interesting perspective from somebody there in College Station. Kellen Mond, everybody's got a free year this year. Is there a scenario where he comes back next year?
No, he's already committed to playing the Senior Bowl.
Okay.
I think he's been here for 4 years, and I think he's ready to move on. And quite frankly, even though I don't think it's fair, there's a whole bunch of Aggie fans that are ready for him to move on.
That doesn't surprise me. And I was actually going to follow up with that. So at times, Mond has looked really, really good this year. At times, it hasn't been as good. How much of the inconsistency is just that's who Kellen Mond is versus some losses that happened this year, be it injury or opt-out, that might have made this a better season offensively overall?
Okay. Well, as far
is there a lot to unpack there?
Yeah, I think I might have lost you there for a minute. Look, as far as the inconsistency of Kellen, it's driven the general Aggie population crazy. He's been a lot better this year, but then he goes out and you feel like, okay, he's finally turned the corner. Everything's great. This is the guy we thought he could be. Had his best game of his career against Florida. Had a great game against Arkansas. Feeling really good. And then he goes back to LSU. And I know he hadn't practiced for like 3 weeks, and It was raining. It was a torrential storm, but he played probably his worst game, definitely of the season, maybe of his career. And then you think, okay, right back where he started. But then he came out and he played a really strong game against Auburn. Had a couple of maybe got lucky on a pass or two, but still a really strong game. So, if Kellen plays a strong game and avoids turnovers, and that's the first thing with Kellen. A&M really is capable of beating anybody, but they're never good enough to just assume they're going to beat anybody. So, they were right in the game with Alabama for a while, and they throw a pick six, and after the pick six, he had them driving, and then they had a couple of key drop passes, no fault of Kellen's. They were good throws, and the receivers dropped them. That could have made that a very competitive game. So A&M, it used to be A&M was as good as Kellen could be, as good as Kellen is. This year they don't have to rely as heavily on Kellen because the offensive line's playing so well. The running game is really good, and the defense has gotten a lot better. So when Kellen plays at a high level, they're a team deserving of that high ranking that they have. When he's not, they can be very vulnerable.
Hey, only 30 seconds left. Is next year's starting quarterback on the roster right now?
Yeah, I think so. It'll be the Zach Calzada of a sophomore out of Georgia, or it'll be Haynes King, a freshman from Longview, Texas. They like them both. Haynes a better athlete. Zach has a big-time arm, and I think those two will compete for the job, and one of them's going to win it. And if you understand how college football goes, and I know you do, one of them's probably transferring.
That's exactly what I was. All right, one of them is going to be the starter, and the other one's going to be playing somewhere else. That's how it works in this era of college football. Olin, always enjoy the visits. Thanks for your time this afternoon.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
And that's Olin Buchanan from TexAgs.com on the